In our next episode, we'll be looking at ways to access the naturally awesome landscape of World Heritage listed Fraser Island. But before we do, let's check out some of her historical milestones. More information can be found in the links in the description. It all started in May 1770 with Captain James Cook. Cook named the island Great Sandy Peninsula in the mistaken belief it was connected to the mainland. In 1799, Matthew Flinders in the Norfolk explored parts of Hervey Bay and discovered the peninsula was, in fact, an island.
Fraser Island, Gary from the air.
Your assistance to improve these videos would be greatly appreciated. Just like or dislike this video and leave your comment to let us know how we did. And here's your chance to subscribe now if you'd like to see future new releases. In July 1802, explorer Matthew Flinders sailed the east coast, landing for a day to collect water and wood for the botanists to collect plant specimens. In 1836, survivors of the wrecked ship Stirling Castle took shelter on the island before being rescued by a Brisbane search party. Imaginative accounts by one survivor, the captain's wife of the Stirling Castle, Eliza Fraser, became embellished as she travelled Australia and Britain, earning money and fame from her ordeal. Another survivor's story described Captain Fraser's death from natural causes, but Eliza's stories inspired widespread hostility towards Aborigines. The island became known as Fraser Island. In 1842, explorer Andrew Petrie reported good pastoral lands and excellent forests. Settlers arrived, grazing sheep and cattle. Logging of valuable karri pines began in 1863. After the Gympie Gold Rush of 1867, demand for timber boomed and logging expanded to become the region's major industry for more than a century. Relics of timber cutting camps, sawmills, tramways, jetties, wharves and towns remain today. These are some of the things you can explore if you go four-wheel driving on Fraser Island. In 1925, the Saturnae became the major timber logged on the island after it was found to be resistant to marine borers and became popular for use in marine conditions around the world. Saturnaes, logged heavily in the Pyle Valley area, were used in the construction of the Suez Canal and to rebuild the London docks after World War II. In the late 1800s, when shipping became important in the region, major lighthouses were built at Sandy Cape in 1870 and Double Island Point in 1884. Central Station, a former logging camp, is now Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service Ranger Information Station and Interpretive Centre. One of the most known shipwrecks is the SS Mahino. Its now rusty ruins are located halfway up the island's east coast. We will be looking at Fraser Island's various shipwrecks in detail in a future episode. It's time now to give credit to Ross and Tammy. This is a modern day recently renovated example of many of the homes built on the Fraser Coast mainland which used hardwood timbers from Fraser Island. Let's talk about the Brumbies or wild horses. They are descendants of Arab horses, which were being bred for the Indian Army, and Clydesdales, which were used in the logging industry. Horses first arrived on the island in 1879, but there are no longer any left. Or are there? It was not until the 1930s that the tourism potential of Fraser Island was recognised. The industry grew throughout the century, and it was in the 1970s that Fraser Island became known as a tourist destination on the Queensland coast. This was when mining began, a very controversial situation. The decision was reversed in 1976. Up until 1992, much of the island was state forest. However, today Fraser Island is known as a national park. Fraser Island 200-year milestones. 1770, Captain Cook discovers and names the island Great Sandy Peninsula. 1799, Lieutenant Matthew Flinders explores around the Fraser Island area aboard Norfolk. 1802, Lieutenant Matthew Flinders and botanists collected Fraser Island plant specimens. 1836, Captain James Fraser shipwrecks at Swain Reefs aboard Stirling Castle. Fraser Island got its name. 1842, Andrew Petrie pioneered harvesting of timber. 1863, commercial logging began. 1870, Sandy Cape Lighthouse built. 1879, horses arrived on the island. Logging for the Suez Canal timbers commenced. 1884, Double Island Point Lighthouse was built. 1890s, a telegraph line was built from Hervey Bay to Sandy Cape. 1905, logging of tallowood and blackbutt at Poyungan and Bagimba Creek areas began. 1914, SS Malu shipwrecks near Waddy Point. 1919, Mackenzie's Wharf and Sawmill were established on Fraser Island's west coast. 1925, Saturday timber became popular export. 1930s, Fraser Island tourism became popular. 1934, the Happy Valley Tourist Resort was established by the Warry family of Maryborough. 1935, the SS Maheno was grounded on Fraser Island. During the Second World War, one of Australia's most famous military commando units, Z-Force, trained on Fraser Island. 1966, mining companies take out major mining leases on Fraser Island. There was no publicity and no public opposition. 1970s, Fraser Island became the Queensland tourism destination. 1971, sand mining began, but the decision was reversed in 1976. Whale watching becomes a major industry in Hervey Bay as the population of humpback whales, decimated by earlier commercial whaling operations in eastern Australia, began to make a significant comeback. 1991, logging ceased on Fraser Island in November. All sand mining leases were acquired back by the government. Construction work commenced along the Fraser Island's sandfly shores near Dundonga Creek, which was titled Kingfisher Bay Resort. 21st of May 2007, Fraser Island became World Heritage listed. That's just the tip of the sand dune we call Fraser Island history. Next time, we will check out the best ways to access the island and the permits required to do so. Join me then, and I'll look forward to telling you more.